Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of Lowdown on Low Code. I'm John Rymer, an analyst at analysis.tech here and co-father of the term low code. Welcome, everyone. As always, if you find our podcast useful, please like us, recommend us to your friends. We're trying to help the whole community here. Uh, we're coming to you in this episode from Austin, Texas, and Zoho Day 2025. And I'm thrilled to have as our guest the chief scientist now and a co-founder of Zoho, uh, um, Sridhar Vembu, a man that I met back in 2019 in a discussion about low code. Zoho Creator is a very well-respected low-code platform. It has been used for many, many years by lots of folks, pro developers as well as business people, to build lots and lots of apps. And many Zoho customers use Creator in combination with the company's business applications. Zoho has 55, actually more, business applications that people use Creator to extend. So when I first met Sridhar, he said something very interesting to me. I said to him, "You are building your own cloud data centers. Are you crazy? Why aren't you using AWS?" And Sridhar said, "Look, John, we need to control our technology. And so we are building our own data centers. We build our own everything. And that gives us total control over the architecture, the pricing, et cetera, et cetera." And, that's a really legitimate point of view because you do need control to drive technology forward. So Sridhar, welcome. It's a pleasure to have you here with us on the podcast.
Yeah. Thank you, John. Thank you for that introduction. Really appreciate it and looking forward to it.
So Sridhar, how we usually start the podcast is your journey. How did you get here? You built this enormous company with lots and lots of customers and a great low code reputation. How did you get here? Where did you start?
So this company is nearly 30 years now, 28 plus 29 now. And it's been a long journey with our co-founders, Tony Thomas here and my siblings in India. It's been a really, really interesting journey that way with a lot of twists and turns in this. And we got started on low code approximately about 2005. Okay, and so early, we jumped in very early on this. That came, actually, we were building some technologies before. Our India team, they had been building some technologies, and suddenly the realization struck that you put up a kind of a web IDE and it becomes a low code. At that time, the term did not exist, of course. It's not been invented yet. You had not invented it. So, and we thought we could just do this app creation on the web itself, web apps on the web. And then we evolved, and the iPhone happened. We quickly evolved to creating also the mobile apps, and then steady growth from there. The technology got better and better. Today, in our 6th version of this whole Creator suite, we are really incredibly powerful, and we are also introduced now AI-enabled features to drive much higher, even higher productivity. So that's where we are today.
Thank you. We usually end these conversations by asking about AI, but because you brought it up, let's tackle it right at the top. Your keynote here at the conference was very thought-provoking. It was a very different view, I think, than a lot of people have about AI. And one of the things you said was that most of the AI features that are being introduced these days in low code and other domains are commodity, and they're really not that valuable. Tell us about the real value that you are working towards building, if you would.
So it's commodity, it's useful. Let me just distinguish between that. Being very useful doesn't mean it confers economic value to the producer. That's what a commodity means. It's vital, it's useful, but doing it may not produce a lot of economic advantage. And that's where AI is, particularly the reasoning engines now are getting rapidly ubiquitous, commoditized, and the language understanding, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
That's the part that's a commodity. So then where is the source of value? Bringing these together to create powerful automation, powerful solutions for business, and particularly that integrates the contextual data of their business. Data, facts that the AI cannot be aware. The generic AI, regardless of whether it's from OpenAI or Anthropic or from DeepSeek, the newfangled one, none of them could be trained on our specific business data, our business facts, our business truth, our context that they won't know. And when you mix the two and you apply these reasoning engines, then you get really powerful value. And that's where the way I see about low code, in fact, no code, the two terms are merging into each other now, is that you create very context specific apps, verticalized, business specific, designed to solve your problem and flexes with you, grows with you, and very quick to change and adapt, along with the data getting upgraded or migrated, all of that, as your business grows and adapts and changes. Well, it's a changing landscape. Can our software keep up with it? That's the first one. How quickly can it adapt? This is where I think the new technologies from AI, which are becoming widely available and therefore very very affordable now, mixed with this, how we can bring together your business context and data and deliver that value. That's the real question.
Great, thank you. And could you tell us a little bit about how you will be applying AI here at Zoho to make low code better, make low code even faster, or tell us a little bit about what you've got in mind.
So I laid out a 3-stage roadmap, and I'm going to call it approximately as kind of read-only use cases, where low code and these AI platforms that combined together deliver immense insights, actionable insights to the human decision makers, but the AI is not performing the action. So that's the read-only, where it has our entire context. It's applying the reasoning engines, it's applying the intelligence, and it's a new form of intelligence. It's not the traditional BI. This is contextual intelligence. It's bringing those analysis capabilities and giving you insights that then are actionable. That's the first step. And in this step, even here, we need to make sure that the AI is giving us truth and not hallucinating, facts, hallucinating information. So that's important. Then the next step is the read-write use case, where it gives you what they call the actions. This is the agentic part, where it's able to perform these autonomous agents, or maybe some human in the loop agents, where it's recommending or it's willing to perform actions, but it's taking some final approval, authorization from the human. So that's the next step. That's the action frameworks, the agentic, all of that. The key here is, what is AI producing? The AI is producing some kind of a structured information, which call actions, that are independently verifiable, validatable by other tools. That's important. Not just you're taking the AI output and immediately just translating into action, but there's some verification steps inserted in the middle. Those tools become very vital. That's the step 2. So from read-only, now where it provides you actionable insights, but the humans are performing the action. The second, where the AI is able to take autonomous action or actions with maybe a human approval, but really still the AI is doing it. That's the next step. Here we need those verification steps, the verification tools, validation, all. Then the third step, which is actually, I admit I'm being speculative here, but I actually believe, I tell you what I believe, that we can massively enhance programmer productivity. We can enable a lot more people to become programmers and produce really state-of-the-art, really good software to run their businesses, particularly verticalized, context-specific, their business-specific software at prices that are, impossible, unimaginable today. So we think of enterprise software as expensive, it's going to alter the entire economics. That's the third step, where these AI tools, along with these validation, verification together, deliver that major leap in programmer productivity. The first step is already happening in a large scale. The second step, vendors are promising a lot of action agent stuff, is still not fully there, but I think that will happen over the next 1 or 2 years. I think we can expect a lot of progress on it. The step 3 is speculative still. I believe it will happen. We are investing in it, but it will take some time. So that's how I put the 3-stage roadmap of AI.
Right. I was going to ask you. I think the programmer productivity might be nearer term. I mean, we already see some folks
We see that.
Yeah.
But the thing is, they get you started well. Still, and the problem today with those tools is that once they give you some code, they get you started. At some point, maybe you are going to do some changes, and the programmer gets stuck, and they is not able to help. This is a repeated observation from people. At that point, they will have to understand a lot of the code anyway, and all of the productivity you gain, kind of a lot of it gets pissed away in that step, where I have to understand all of the code it put out. This is something repeated complaint I hear from people about this. So that's the problem we have to actually solve.
Right. Thank you. So again, this is Lowdown on Low Code, the podcast from analysis.tech. If you like what you're hearing, if you find it useful, please like us, find us on your favorite channel and like us, and come visit us at analysis.tech to see our latest research and to engage with myself and colleagues. Thanks again for tuning in. We'll now move on with the conversation. So one of the real interesting questions for me anyway is, given that Zoho has so many products, you've got application products, you've got a widely used platform in Creator. When you, Sridhar, are sitting with a prospect, and the prospect is talking about their needs, what about that prospect says to you, this is the perfect customer for us? And of course, when you hear something where the customer says, and you say, this isn't for us, this is not a good customer for us, could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's a really good question. It's a tough one. So ultimately, every customer we do want to serve, right? But there is, in particularly when it comes to these low-code platforms. I give you a customer that we met recently, who said that I'm going to write everything in the old-fashioned way, Java, the IDEs, all that. And they're set on that. And that's because they have teams of professional programmers. And there's something interesting about low-code platforms. A lot of the really professional programmers don't particularly like them. Not just because it takes away their job, whatever. It's not just that. It's also because they don't think it's powerful enough. And they feel that, hey, it can get me maybe 80% of the way, but that last 20% is hell, and I don't want to trust these platforms. So that is a legitimate critique. I'll come to that. So that customer who says, hey, I'm going to do it in Java or JavaScript or whatever the old-fashioned way, I don't want these tools, that customer may not be for us, for these low-code platforms. I think for any low-code platform, that would be true. Now, the customer that is suitable here is someone who comes in with, I have some technical knowledge, I have domain knowledge, and I want to get this done. I don't have a lot of money. I don't have a huge budget. I cannot afford to spend months, years at this. I want to get this done quickly, and it has to serve my business. From the beginning, it is those customers that drove this low-code revolution. And we have numerous examples of those. In fact, the earliest one that I remember, this was like almost 10 years ago, there was a winemaker right here in Central Valley. And this person runs the business. And he also built this whole winery ERP on Zoho Creator. And he was able to run this entire operation on Creator. And that's, and this is a real example. He was able to do it for a fraction of the budget it would have cost to do this in the old-fashioned way, right? He didn't have to worry about databases, all of that. Everything is bundled in. It's built in there. So that's the type of customer that's ideal. And I'm telling you, this gap is kind of bridging slowly, where this professional programmer versus this domain expert who's not really keen on a lot of programming. I believe these AI, these new kind of tools that are coming, which we are incorporating these technologies into our own low-code platform, particularly Creator, I believe this gap will narrow over the next few years, where you are going to, this professional developer, we are going to make them much more productive. And this domain expert, we are going to make them, we can enable them to do a lot more. And the key here is, this problem I told you, where the last 20% problem, the key here is to make sure that the technology, this is where it's a low code and not just no code. The no code and low code have to be bridged. This is why while we have the no code aspects to it, we say that mixing just that little bit of code can make it extremely powerful, solve those very specific problems. And that code can even come from AI and validated by tools. And once you put that in, incorporate that, it becomes much more powerful. Right. So it's that low code mixed with maybe a AI generated, validated, really validated code. Not just AI generated, but validated code that can make the domain expert much more productive. And the programmer can add new kind of libraries, all that, and those can be ingested by these platforms and then incorporated as part of business applications. So that's how I see the gap narrowing.
I was struck in your keynote that you made this. You talked about more widespread use of Creator by business people as well as pro developers. But as you were describing that, you called them all programmers, even the business people. And I wonder if I was struck by that, because I usually separate the two, but I wonder if it speaks to the changing nature of work at all. I wonder if that's if you've got some thoughts about that.
Yeah, in at the first basic level, when we are putting in, when you are telling the AI to do something as a prompt, in a way we are describing a system we are programming, but in English, in human language, but still. And that it's when we do this more precisely stated, more carefully, the AI does a good job. When we are very sloppy, we have given it a very poor requirement. Even AI cannot guess at our intentions. So we want to state our intent clearly. And in English, but still state it clearly, maybe point by point, give it really good instructions, right? That's what they call it, prompt engineering. And so that is a kind of an activity like programming now. And then the next thing is what is coming out of AI, and particularly we want it to be performing actions on our behalf. That's code in a way. That's structured information. Structured information is what I'm going to call it code. Data is code, right? And then that's automatically verifiable by tooling. Those tooling are independent of the LLM itself, but they take the LLM output and validate, verify. Sometimes maybe after verification, validation, maybe feed it back into LLM again to enhance it further. This loop where there is LLM, AI involved, then there's traditional tooling involved, which get now enhanced further, and then there's a feedback loop with the human observing it and guiding this process. This could lead to, that's where I'm talking about this 10-fold to 100-fold productivity. And now in this sense, the human guiding this becomes, as in effect, become a programmer, even if they are not coding in the traditional sense. So the low code now includes this prompt engineering.
Right. Right. Be careful what you say. You may be writing a program.
Yes, exactly.
That's good.
And maybe the human who's guiding this, putting in the prompt, is actually affecting the end systems, but with the appropriate verification, validation tools that are telling you, hey, you are about to do these things. Turn off that switch, turn this on, send this email, all of that. Do you want to do these things? Right?
Yeah. Thank you. Zoho has an enormous customer base and lots of users all over the world, and that customer, but the customer base has been built largely in small medium business. The company's been very successful with small medium business. What are you doing at Zoho to begin to address larger, more complex enterprises? Because I know you want to go there. What are your plans? What do you know, how are you going to bring the values that you guys provide to those larger customers?
It's a two-stage process. At first, in the product level, we have all of the staging and all of the compliance requirements, all of that we have put in. The last, particularly 5 years, have seen a massive evolution of the platform towards the enterprise. And we do have some large enterprise customers. Some of them have been in this event, Zoho Day. And so we are seeing adoption. That's the first one. And then on the market, go to market. Of course, large enterprises need a lot more onboarding to support and enterprise support 24/7. All of those too, that troubleshooting, all of that. Because when they are going to run line of business applications on this platform, they want to be sure that they can get that support they need. When they call, somebody picks up the phone, there are people available 24/7 to resolve problems and monitoring, give them accurate status updates on what is going on in their system, all of that. That also we have put in place. We have had a massive expansion in our particularly support and all of this. It's low code, but still when they hit trouble, they want help instantly. And we are doing a lot of that. So that's what is really enterprise ready. And we are now ready. And this event itself, you saw like in our enterprise customers, the reception here, the number of analysts here, all that. So, and we are taking major steps towards that. And then the GTM, the go-to-market strategy is evolving. Now we have teams and we are hiring sales and sales engineering and support all over the place too.
Right. Thank you. One part of your architecture, raised a question for me, frankly. Given that Zoho makes everything, Zoho is self-serves and is making everything. Did you build your own database at the core of the platform?
Yeah, we use open source database. Today, most of it is in Postgres, but we have added tremendous value. I'll give you one example. Our Postgres instance also is integrated with our own homegrown columnar database engine. And the queries, as a result, could be 10, 20 times faster. And above and beyond, just one second. Sorry. Struggling with that. Above and beyond that, there's a columnar store that we launched as part of the Postgres that is developed by our own labs, our Zoho labs. We also have these databases running on GPU for large complex queries. We have rolled it out for some very large customers, enterprise customers. You have huge volumes of data and the queries can run 80 times, 100 times faster in our testing with GPUs. That's a homegrown technology. That's not available commercially in the market. We have incorporated it into our instances and it's serving more and more. We are deploying it in more and more data centers. Of course, we have to buy GPUs and GPUs have been in short supply because of the AI revolution. But we actually are consuming GPUs for a totally different reason, for running large database queries too. So these are only possible because we are running it on our own infrastructure. And all of this R&D is getting incorporated into our low-code platforms. So when that platform scales for that customer, for that large enterprise customer, we are right there with them with columnar stores, with GPU-based query engines, all of this, so that as they put more load on these systems, more data on these, we can scale with them.
Got it. Frankly, I think you should talk more about this.
Yes.
All right. Last question I have for you is about governance. When the reason analysis.tech exists is to help further the low-code journeys of our clients, of the community, really. And what we consistently find is the biggest barrier to adoption at scale is governance. How do we govern it? What policy should we use? What guardrails could we implement in the platform? And so on and so forth. Do you agree? And what are you doing? If you do, what are you doing about it? How are you going to help folks out?
In fact, that's a big area of investment. We have actually from a chief privacy officer, a chief compliance officer with all of the compliance standards. For example, used in healthcare, we have HIPAA. And in Europe, we have GDPR. And in every country and every domain, they're now coming up with compliance and regulatory standards. That's one. And the governance is about privacy and of course legal, things like discovery, all of those. So we are investing heavily in the platform underneath, so that any app that built, and similarly accessibility guidelines, so that in European Union now every software has to be accessible for people with hearing and other visual impairments. So those all we are putting it into the platform core itself, so that any app that built will be compliant and ready for business for them. So this is an area of massive investment. This again is where our customers reap the productivity gains of what we are putting into the platform ourselves. Just like I mentioned, fast querying with GPUs and columnar stores, all of that can benefit our low-code platform customers. In the same way, all of this regulatory compliance, governance-related work we are doing in the platform, we are making massive investment there. And then the security part. We are making heavy investment to secure our data centers, secure the data that customers entrust with us, and our low-code apps built on it automatically inherit all of those. All of the security filters that we have at the Zoho level also go into the apps they build with us. So that's another major benefit of this platform.
What about software lifecycle? That's another aspect of governance that can be really tricky, particularly when you're dealing with domain experts who they know their domain, but they don't know much about software. And so there's a big opportunity essentially to add, sometimes with AI, advice or constraints on software lifecycle. Is that part of your thinking as well?
Yes. So first level is from the data preparation, data migration. As the business evolves, as they evolve the app, the data has to migrate with it. The data has to be cleaned up. Some older data has to be cleaned up. Older data coming in from legacy systems have to be appropriately shaped, cleaned up to fit this new platform. All of that, and we have invested in those tools. We have this data prep platform that goes with it, and similarly, the whole staging cycles. Enterprises, they don't want to roll out an app without staging it through multiple stages. There may be a small pilot, and then there is a bigger deployment, and then an enterprise-wide deployment with a failover strategy, so that if there's anything goes wrong, then they can go back to a current working version, snapshotting. And we are now bundling our entire repository engine so that you get accurate versioning control. So that's a whole life cycle thing. All of the professional tools our programmers use are available to our low-code customers directly. That's part of our whole enterprise offering. And the idea is there may be low code, still you get professional level tools to handle that code in versioning systems. Even the machine generated code is versioned accurately for you. So you know exactly what changed when, all that. So that's all of that investment is now there in our platform.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much. Sridhar, it's been a real pleasure. I have always really respected your point of view, and your track record, I think, speaks for itself. Zoho has been very, very successful. We're looking forward to continuing to follow your activities and the company's activities. Thanks so much for sharing your insights and thoughts with us today. And for everyone who tuned in, thanks for tuning in. Again, this is Lowdown on Low Code from analysis.tech. Find us generally every week on your favorite podcast, at your favorite podcast source. Come visit us at analysis.tech, see the latest research that we're working on, and have a good day.
Thank you, John. Thank you.